Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to our Darien Intergovernmental Coordination Committee. We are meeting today on December 3rd, and we have a good crowd here with us tonight. We've invited the Darien Historical Society to discuss assistance with the Historical Society. But our first item on our agenda this evening, I think what I'd like to do is for the viewing audience, let's all introduce ourselves that are sitting up here, and even the members down on the lower level. I'm Kathleen Weaver, Mayor of the City Darien, and why don't we start with you, Rich?
Okay, Rich Brandeis, Cass School District 63.
Bob Rizzuto, Darien School District 61.
Ray Jablonski, Darien Park District.
Marion Kopeka, Indian Prairie Public Library.
Claudia Manley, Hinsdale High School Township District 86 School Board.
And John, do you want? Historical Society? Former alderman? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Don Dibburn, Darien Historical Society.
Okay, you can share
Society.
those microphones, right?
Historical Society, Alice Brennan.
Okay.
Dean Rodkin, Historical Society.
Did you want to share that microphone with
Sure.
the other table? I think that might be good for them, because Alice and you, Dean, can share that.
Warren Anderson, Darien Historical Society.
Deborah Karras, Historical Society.
Okay, I think we have Kathy Marquez with the Historical Society.
Slash Park District.
And, yes, that's right, you get around, don't you? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Jeanette Campbell, Historical Society.
Okay.
Mary Kreckelberg, Historical Society.
And Kathy Abadi, did you want to come up and sit up here, please? No, you don't. You don't have to sit up there. No, you don't have to at all. Okay. And I think we have Kathy's name in there too. So, Bob Klein just arrived. He's with the Darien Woodridge Fire Protection District. Kathy Abadi is one of the Downers Grove Township trustees. So thank you all for joining us. And we also, in the audience, we have Joan Rigona, our city clerk, is back there. We also have our treasurer, Mike Korn, is here. Alderman Schauer, Kenny, and Marquez are also in attendance. And I thank you all for being here this evening. The first item on the agenda is a discussion of how to improve our town hall meeting that we had in September. And right off the bat, I think Rich, when we sent out an email, Rich, I think you came up with a few good ideas. Let me just, if I remember correctly, you suggested that possibly we hand out a layout of the room where all the taxing bodies are located in the room on a handout to everyone that walks in the door. And that would be a great start to get everybody knowing, understanding where everybody is so they can move around the room. And also, that's the only one I really remember. But yes.
The thing that I thought could have been improved was people came in and didn't realize the purpose of the tables, and they went and sat down instead of going around. And I think they would have formulated more questions if they had a chance to talk to some of the organizations that were there. So I thought maybe even having a greeter at the door, letting people know as you go in, here's what we'd like you to do from 7 to 7:30 or whatever it is. Feel free to go around, talk to the table, talk to people at the tables, that sort of thing, and kind of encourage them to mingle when they walk in the door.
Good idea, very good. More than one greeter, I would guess that would be a good idea. Any other ideas on improving the town hall meeting? My first thought was to, besides that great idea you had, was to increase the amount of time at the beginning for people that walk in to move around the room and meet the other taxing bodies and talk with them, and not start any speaking until a little bit later, maybe 45 minutes after the beginning or an hour after the beginning. Other thoughts from anyone else on improving the town hall meeting?
I have some complaints. Not the first time, Kathy, I'm mayor.
Okay.
But I don't know where we lost the reason for this meeting, at least the town hall. Initially, it was my understanding, and I could be the only one that feels this way, that it was going to be based on where are your taxing dollars going. And it ended up being a dog and pony show for the city, of which is not the largest taxing body in the city of Darien. And as a result, the schools got off scot-free, the fire departments got off scot-free, the park district got off scot-free, and we really didn't do what I thought we were there to do, was to find out where your tax dollars, and if you had any questions on what you're being taxed, that was the intent, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I was under the impression you were going to give a 2 to 5 minute welcome, glad you were here, and then turn it over to the taxing bodies. And I didn't see that happen. So as a result, I really think we missed the boat. Now, if you're going to have a town hall meeting with what the city is doing, fine. But that wasn't what I really thought was going to happen. And I think we needed participation from all the partners as to where their dollars are going. And if you have any questions about it, you can go ahead and ask. And I thought that was extremely important, and I think we blew it
Well,
for that aspect.
yeah, but you don't forget, from the beginning, I asked repeatedly, taxing bodies, do you want to speak to the groups?
Right.
You did ask if we wanted to speak, but the intent was for the people to speak and ask the taxing bodies, what are they doing? That was the intent as I understood it, and that's completely contrary to the way it worked. I don't think they needed another speaker to get up there and say, this is where your money's going, blah, blah, blah. What are your questions? And open it up to the people and say, what are your questions? Tell me what your questions are, and see if we can answer them without giving her a dog and pony show is the word I'm going to use. That was just my understanding, and I do know no one spoke up at the time and said, no. It just got all switched around until that night, and I was very surprised.
Well, it was our first venture at doing this.
Yes.
And we've got a lot of room for improvement. And I absolutely agree with you that was our main intent, was that our residents could get in there and talk to all of us about where their taxes go. Ted, did you have an idea?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we should definitely do next year is have a Q&A with a panel of not only the aldermen, but everybody. So we can have an open forum to ask the questions to anybody from 63, 61, Fire District, and keep that open for about 20 to 30 minutes, because I think that's important to get that on television.
A Q&A, and Ted, you were saying that there would be some sort of grouping of representatives from all the taxing bodies. People would ask questions.
From 63, 61, the elected officials, everybody across, so it can be an open forum and ask any questions that are, pertain to Darien. That way, if somebody had a question about the schools for 63 that Rich could take care of and so forth. Somebody maybe had a question about, Darien and Ward 1, that would be me or yourself, basically. But that's how I'd keep it. More questions than answers.
Well, we did open up the opportunity for residents when we started advertising to ask questions and submit them.
Right.
And I guess we just go back to the fact that this is our first shot at it, and there's lots of room for improvement.
And I just think that if we had more people sitting up in front from every body, basically, it'll make it a lot easier, and people, I think, would be a little bit more open to ask more questions. So.
Okay.
Along the same lines, I stood in the back. Part of the time I couldn't hear you, but my hearing is I'm getting older. The other thing is my eyesight's going bad too. I don't know if any of you other guys have the same problem I do. I could not read the slides. I mean, there was a lot of information on there if you were sitting in the first row, and that was a select few that could possibly get up there. So if you have a program of this, the slides have to be very, very short and big enough to read if you're going to show them. And if you have a question about the police department, let the police chief answer. Let the police chief, he was there.
Yes.
And I think they need to see who's representing them and who's talking. And I think that would have been extremely helpful.
Okay.
Those 2 points that I was hearing and seeing.
Okay.
Other than that, it was great.
Now, all right, that would be interesting. Okay. Well, I guess we have lots of time to discuss how we want to lay this out, because we had the tables really all around the room with all the taxing bodies, but now we're thinking about possibly putting in like the tables out there with representatives from all the taxing bodies who would be answering questions from the audience. Is that kind of what you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, if you have everybody sitting in the front, I think people would be
definitely.
That was another one. I don't know if you made that recommendation or not, but a microphone to hand to the person who was asking a question from the audience. Yeah. Joe, did you have something?
Would it be, possible to have a third-party MC? So it didn't look, since you got all the taxing bodies,
That's a good point.
it wouldn't look from a bias standpoint. Maybe if you got somebody say from the county board to moderate it this way, nobody can turn around and say that, the mayor took favoritism on this side of the room versus this side of the room. This way you have a neutral party for all our taxing bodies.
Well, I don't know if I'd want to go to a county board member because now we're introducing another taxing body. We're trying to keep it local. Yeah, it's just an idea, a moderator, yeah. Yeah.
This is just a minor point, but it might be kind of interesting, too, to have a sample tax bill and have it projected on the screen. I mean, it's a minor point, but I think sometimes people, it brings a question when they get their tax bill, what do all these things mean? What's going to stay on the tax bill? What will not be on the tax bill forever? For example, the bond in the library will be paid off in a short time, and so that will not appear on your tax bill. So I think some of those things, sometimes it'll jog people's memory.
Now, I think each individual taxing body would have to do that tax bill because we couldn't do one tax bill because we have all these different taxing bodies that they don't all appear on everybody's tax bill, so.
Right,
We'd
you'd
have to have
a few
each
different
one
different samples.
Yeah.
But pretty much in Darien, I would assume most.
Now,
You get some with 86 and some with 99.
Right,
Some with
so,
61,
okay, the
some
school
with
Everyone at
district would change.
86 is in 63 and 61, but not 66.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
an interesting point, because really, we could ask the people to bring your tax bill for reference.
It's just
I mean, there's
a
2
minor
fire
point.
departments in town, half the people don't know which fire department serves them. Or,
yeah. Joe?
I think that's a good point. I've been to homeowners association meetings there, and I have people at Carriage Greens this last summer, and they said, why is it so expensive to live in the city of Darien? And I said, what do you mean? Well, it costs me thousands of dollars. And I said, no, it doesn't. And I said, Darien is only 3.5% of your tax bill. Well, why am I paying thousands? I said, do you actually look line by
Takes the
line?
pressure off of
Yeah.
To be quite honest, even in healthy people with communities like this don't look at that tax bill.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a great idea to cover that.
yeah, I think so. Kathy? Yeah.
Speaking from the township, most people don't realize living in Darien, they're part of the Downs Grove Township. And so many municipalities feed into Downs Grove Township, and next year we'd like to be their representative, whether it's myself or even Terry Cockrell, who's our assessor. And that's a big piece of the property. Your assessed value of your home determines your rates and all of that. So it'd be really interesting for the public to understand how your home's assessed and valued, and then the taxes that go along with it, because that's a big key.
She might not want to be there after everybody gets their tax bill.
Terry's actually very good. She's
Yeah.
spoken at a lot of groups.
Yeah.
And Claudia knows that.
Yeah,
And she'd be happy to do it,
yeah,
actually.
okay.
But she could control the meeting by getting involved with that, and nothing else would get done. If she goes into that, how your
So let's
assessments are
have
done.
2 of them.
Pardon?
Let's have 2 of them. Let's make 2 of them.
Any other ideas?
I think you have to be careful not
Yeah.
to turn this into a totally tax-focused meeting, however. Because you also want to communicate what each organization is doing, what their goals are, what they're trying to, 3 and 5 year plans, that sort of thing. And if it becomes just, I want to come here to complain about my taxes, then I think it, in some ways, becomes counterproductive. I understand the need for educating people, answering their questions, but I think you have to keep a balance in there.
Well, that's what we started out with our
What-
initial
what are you
plan.
getting for those?
Was, yes, our plan was to show off what we do, the school districts, and they had information there to explain to people what they do. So, yeah, we did cover that in the first one, so lots of good ideas.
Is the thought that this is going to be an annual event?
I was hoping it would.
Can we just ask that maybe the week was not very good for the high school, it was homecoming week, if we're going to reschedule it?
Okay, well, we have a lot of time now to work on a date. Yeah, so, yeah, we probably would need to, everyone bring their calendars to see, and look at dates to see what works for everybody. This group, to begin with, we had a struggle just to find a date for all of us to get together because of all of our board meeting nights, and we came up with the first Tuesday of every month as the only day of the week that we could all get together. Is that somebody's phone? Yeah. Okay, turn that off, yeah. So, I guess that we will start planning this right after the first of the year. In fact, I'm going to suggest, because I think we're going to have a lot of information to digest with talking with the Historical Society tonight, I'm going to suggest that we meet again in February, and that date would be February 4th, 2014. Holy cow. That would be the next date. If we find that we don't need it, we can certainly cancel that, and I'll make sure our staff gets that on a calendar so everybody knows what date it is. But let's shoot for February 4th, 2014 as our next intergovernmental meeting. So any other thoughts on improving the town hall?
I just had one thought. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way, but I was pretty disappointed with the turnout. A town of 20,000 people.
With all the advertising we did.
We didn't really have very many people there,
Yeah.
and that might be a goal to think of ways to try to get more people there.
Yeah.
I mean, because there was probably 50 or 60 people there, which...
Guys, do we remember if anybody counted how many people we had there? I think we had more than 50.
I don't think it was much more. I don't think so.
Outside, but the rest, I think,
Not counting
were part of the organizations that were there.
Well, yeah, all of you were standing around the room, so, but, yeah, I'm not a good judge of how many people were there. But again, it could all go back to the fact that this is our first shot at it, and the more we advertise it. Is September a good time to do it? Should we do it in the spring? I mean, we've got a lot to consider as to when is the best time. Certainly not the summer. I would imagine everybody would agree summertime would not be the best time to do it. But, okay, for our next meeting, I'll have all these ideas listed in the minutes so that we can go back over them again. Mike Korn, you have something to share?
I was just suggesting maybe the week after people get their tax bill.
Oh, but that's a very good comment, because, I mean, nothing gets you out faster than where your money's going.
Yeah.
If you don't have something to argue about with the community that you live in, whether it be elevations or water problems or something like that, you start looking at what you're paying and you say, wait a minute, what's going on? You'll get some interest, and that's what will bring them out.
When do they come out twice a year, don't they?
No.
You get the bill once a year.
Oh, you pay 2 times a year, yeah. When does it come out?
May 1st. First payment is due June 1st.
Okay, so. Okay. June question mark. Okay. That might not give us a lot of time to prepare it, but now that we've done it once, we have a pretty good idea of how it goes. Okay. Okay, if there's no other ideas on the improvements to the town hall meeting, I'd like to move to the other item on our agenda this evening, and I wanted to introduce it at this level first. I think that we can have a lot of good discussion here this evening. I see this issue going in many different directions, and gathering a lot more information than we currently have now. Does everybody have a copy of the letter that the Historical Society sent to all of us taxing bodies? I've got copies here if anybody needs it. But in their cover letter, they identified their immediate capital critical needs. And that's what motivated me to think of bringing all of us together to brainstorm and see what we can do as a group, since we all represent many of the taxing bodies in the city of Darien, which represents most of the taxpayers in the city of Darien residents. I think if you've read through this, you can see what their expenses are during the year and what their revenues are. And you can see from the list of the capital needs, they have some pretty great needs right now for the Historical Society. And so the first premise we have to decide is the Historical Society of value to the city? Do we consider it of value to the city? I think that's the premise we have to start with.
We do.
I certainly know you do.
Madam,
Yes.
I'd be happy to say a few words first so
Sure,
they could
Alice,
get
please.
an overview.
Sure.
I'll move this in a little closer. First off, we would like to thank you for welcoming us, having a home to come to talk with the city of Darien, along with all of you representatives who are here this evening, more than we expected, and that's great, because we're looking for opinions. Just as like you were looking for communication for your town hall improvements, we're looking to communicate with you. I'm not going to bore you with reading our whole policy manual, but I'd like to quote the purpose of the Darien Historical Society as it was put together in the middle 1970s when the organization was born. And that was shortly after the city was born. And it reads, "The purpose of the organization shall be to originate and develop the Darien Historical Society in order to establish, promote, and report on the educational programs and activities necessary to preserve the history of the Darien community and its surrounding area, including landmarks, objects, documents, and artifacts of significance." Now, you can play around with this policy statement as it's written, but basically this covers what their mission is. And I look to the first word that they pointed out as landmarks. And the most important landmark within the city is really Old Lay Schoolhouse. It's the oldest. And it is the thing that is the structure that we have to pay attention to. And as board members, that's our responsibility. And secondly, we can look at it as an attraction. It's an attraction to the city, especially the business community, as far as being an attractive item on an intersection that's a main intersection within the city. So that part of it has a point of value to the city of Darien. And lastly, it's a home. It's a home for children who have grown up. We still have people in the area who attended that little old schoolhouse. And they have memories, and they bring them to us in story form, sometimes artifacts. And it's a home for the children as they pass through our school district. And some of them come directly to the building for an instruction kind of opportunity to tour the facility itself. All of these things are combined. But right now, as board members, and I was going to introduce them, but you very kindly did that already, we have to connect the past to the present and to the future. And if we don't look toward the future, we're not doing our job. You know, it's the same thing with your groups. In the past few years, we're noticing a diminishing number of volunteers available. Part of that is because a number of the people who were most interested in the organization to begin with were people who formed it. And they're outgrowing this kind of activity. Some are moving away. Some aren't with us anymore. But we need manpower, we need woman power, all of that sort of thing. We need people to show a renewed interest. We fortunately have gathered a few newer people within the last couple of years, made a great impact. And we're very fortunate because our board works well together. And there's no secret agendas, there's no I like this, I like that type of thing. It's focused. It really likes to put its attention on what we can do to make it better. Having said that, I would say that we also overlap with the other groups that are represented here tonight. We're all here for the same purpose, for that motto of the city. It's a nice place to live, but we all have to work at it. It doesn't come free. It doesn't come easy. But we think that we're connected to you the same way as you can be connected with us very easily. But we have a responsibility to look at how things are today. Diminishing numbers of volunteers. Economics, that's another issue. We've all faced that. We used to get more money. we used to have lower expenses. Putting those things together makes it a picture that's not always too pretty to look at. And in the letter, or in this packet that you have in front of you, we're listing the critical needs that face the organization at this time in order to keep things functioning on a current basis, and being an organization that will attract members and teach them in a way that they don't feel like they're being lectured. So that's the way museums are going today. We are lacking the technology. We really have very little in the way of technology, and we are far behind in that item, which is becoming more and more necessary for younger people to be attracted. And we want to do that. But we can't really reach out that far because we have basic needs that need to be met. I think that's really pretty much what needs to be told to you. I think you can see it from there. I'd like to entertain questions, just like Mr. Klein is saying, that there are questions that come up, and we will be happy to either answer them for you or find out answers for you if you stump us.
Well, the immediate question that comes to me, and we discussed it when we met earlier, what have you done, what has the Historical Society done to go out and increase your revenues? Do you seek grants? Are there, what avenues of income can you look to increase your coffers to support your own needs?
We have a dues. We have a dues structure. That dues structure was altered this year, and we increased our dues. It is consistent with what Flag Creek and Downers Grove Park District, their historical society, also what their dues are. So we seem that we're, in line with what other organizations like us are doing in terms of dues. We have fundraising events. We have Tag Day. But again, as Alice pointed out, it's growing more and more difficult to get individuals to assist us with Tag Day. So that impacts the amount of revenue that we can generate through something like that. We also have the ice cream social. We have a Sunday dinner. We've done that also. We've tried to increase membership. We handed out, for example, over 500 flyers at the Independence Day parade. That netted us 2 memberships, So we're trying to be out there. We did apply last year for a grant. We received $500 from the state archives to work on archiving properly the documents that we have. We applied again for a grant this year. We did not receive it simply because the state got 62 applications and had $15,000 to hand out. And so we did not receive a grant in that. Debbie Karras has been exploring grants. Mary Kreckelberg has been exploring grants. This is a whole new area for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have no expertise in that area, but we are, we are exploring whatever avenues we can to generate more revenue.
Well, I think you should take from all of us that you can tap into all of our expertise on seeking grants, and because we have become experts at doing that, because we're always looking for money too.
Yeah.
So have you thought about combining with a larger historical society? The county, I'm just throwing out ideas that I have come to. I went online and I just typed in, what did I type in? Funding of historical societies.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the same boat you are.
Exactly.
Everybody's struggling for funding. That was my next question is.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a Facebook or Twitter
No,
site?
we have no technology. That's one of our issues. Okay. We have no computer.
Because that would get into the younger generation. It would get it would
Right, but
start
we
to
don't
carry
have
across.
any technology whatsoever. The collection itself is in the process of being archived properly, and we've realized we haven't done that. We're learning as we go. We've tapped into other resources to find expertise that will enable us to do this kind of thing, and we're discovering that a lot of things that were done in the past were done by well-meaning and well-intentioned individuals, but they weren't done archivally correct. And so a lot of our collection is in jeopardy of being lost unless we have the funds to do what we need to do to archive it properly.
Do any, I remember when we met initially, I said, it's a shame I didn't know because we routinely get rid of computers as, you know, and it would have been old technology, but it certainly would have been a bigger boost than what you have now, which is nothing.
Right.
But does any of the other taxing bodies have any equipment they could shoot?
I have to check. I know our lease is up next year, I believe, but I think all those go back to the
Yeah.
company we leased.
I'll certainly check.
Yeah.
You know,
The main difficulty, one of the main difficulties is if we don't have access to wireless at all. And that's an expense, again, that we can't incur.
Joe, I have one of the aldermen in the back with his hand up. Joe?
You know, the one thing that they can do is go to the Indian Prairie Library, they can get onto a computer, they can create their Facebook fan page, they can create their Twitter account. They don't need to have a computer per se at Lace School. They just have to have maybe a little training with it. And the kids that you could teach them the most are maybe somebody in the school's history classes. Is build that as part, you know, maybe make that history class that's whether it be at 99 or 63 or 86. What better person to teach? You teach them about history, they're going to teach you about technology, and it's a great byproduct for both sets.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rich.
I wanted to share with them also Claudia's idea about Facebook. There's a Facebook page. I grew up in Riverside, Illinois. There's a page called I Grew Up in Riverside, Illinois. They have something like 10,000 likes. They put pictures on there of different places around town all the time, and they have contests. Can you guess what this house used to be or where this is? And there's tremendous participation. People that are residents, former residents, have moved out of state, are constantly going back to look at that page.
I started a few years ago a page called I Grew Up in Garfield Ridge, which is a community by Midway Airport, and I thought it was going to be a few of my friends were on it. We've got over 2,000 people on that, and we're getting 10, 15 people on it every day. So that's what you need to do. You need history, go to your youth, teach them history, and have them teach you technology.
Actually, we have started talking about doing a Facebook page.
Good.
So
Okay.
we're on board with that. We have
That's not going to incorporate or get us.
No, as part of the Indian Prairie Public Library, where I also work, one of my jobs is local history. And so we're a district library, so I collect the history digitally online for portions of Burr Ridge, Willowbrook, and especially Darien. They've been an excellent partner. We have a Flickr site with all sorts of photos. I've just started something called History Pen, which is really fun, but we haven't gone public with that yet. We have a local history blog. We have oral history, veteran histories interview. I think you made an excellent point. This is a really good place for not just myself as a board and reference librarian to maybe hook up and work on the Facebook page. We can do that, but we are already engaged, and the Historical Society has shared their information with us. It is publicly available through the library's website. So we're trying to do some of that already.
Okay. So I guess what I'm gathering here is we do all feel that the Historical Society is of value to the city. Okay? Can we all agree to that?
No,
Bob?
not really. I'm not trying to be
That's fine.
rough, but, you know, you always have to ask hard questions, and especially when you're looking for money. And when you read your purpose of A, B, C, D, E, about 15 or 20 points, I would like to hear what you've done with those purposes. What have been over the last 5 years or 10 years? What have you accomplished for these purposes? And then once you've got that established, then I'm sure that people would turn around and say, yeah, we want you, but I need to hear more about what you've done, not necessarily to get money, but what your accomplishments have been as a historical society.
Okay.
With involving your principles.
I want to back up for just a little bit, okay? I think what you need to keep in mind is what has generated all this is the realization that we have come to a crossroads, okay? We truly are at a crossroads. All we're able to do right now is maintain the status quo. We're not able to do anything more than do that. So in terms of what we've done, you know, and I don't mean to be rude or obnoxious, but
No.
have you ever visited the museum?
No, but I've been rude and obnoxious.
See?
I've been there.
See, but
I've
that's,
been there.
that's one of our issues, you know, is the fact that because we are an 11-member board and we're all volunteers, we can only manage to be open one Sunday a month. And that also makes it difficult for the community to have access to us. But in terms of what we have done, okay, there is a third grade teacher at Lay School who consistently brings her classes over and experiences the museum. We have numerous Cub Scout and other scouting groups that come to the museum also. We've developed activities for those kids when they come so that they can become aware of what an artifact is, learn what school used to be, and experience what that process is all like. I think one of the major goals of any historical society is to create a sense of community, is to foster what people are a part of, what they belong to. And I think we see that as part of our mission, to generate this feeling of that this is a neat community and that people should be invested in keeping its heritage intact. Go ahead.
You know what, I want to
Did
take
do
this
a book also. Did you know that?
I want to go another step. I want to go in a little bit of a different direction here right now. I think we've established that we consider the Historical Society an important part of the city of Darien.
I don't know that we've answered his question.
Well, Bob's not a Darien resident, so let's.
Okay.
Let me answer your question for a purpose. I'm a brand new alderman, okay? Do you know what happened in 1968 in Marion Hills? Marion Hills Civics Organization went to the village of Woodridge, or Willowbrook, to ask them to be annexed into that area. I didn't know that until Sunday. Do you know how I found that out?
You went to the museum.
I was eating my cookie, drinking my hot chocolate at the tree lighting, and otherwise I wouldn't have known it. So, Mr. Klein, with all due respect, sir, that place does have history and value.
And
That's
we
not
did
what I'm
just
saying.
finish a book.
No, you said it doesn't, I understand that, but you go down there and you see all the different things that we can't get on the internet, on the line. My hats off with these guys.
Mr. Klein, we did just complete writing an Arcadia book on the history of Darien also.
All right, that brings me to.
There's
The-
one
the
other
next
little item.
Go ahead.
A couple of stories that might be of interest to you. We have photographs that were taken between 1860 and 2030, or all the way up to now, really. We don't have as many now as we did from before. But that information came because of an open house where a man walked in the door and he said that he had relatives, ancestors that were from the Downers Grove area. He went to the Downers Grove Museum. They sent him to us, and we now have the most beautiful framed photos. Museum quality is not cheap, but it's the only way to do it, or they dissolve in front of your eyes in a matter of years. And this is the beginning of the pioneer families. That was the Andrus family. We have the Anderman collection now that has just been hung. We have the Wall of Darien, which is a series, it's a chronological series of newspapers that are on the walls downstairs. And you say what we've done, and those are deteriorating because those of us who were on board at that time didn't know better as to how to archive them properly. And they are turning yellow, and that's because they weren't put in the right frames, the right covering, and we've been learning. I need to let you know that we have some pretty professional people on this board.
I tuck grinded your
One
chimney
of them
20 years ago or 25 years ago.
It's
And
due
painted.
for it again.
Needs it again.
Needs it again.
Yep, I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay.
like anything else,
Yeah.
like our eyes and ears are going, so the museum goes too, in, in parts too. Thank you.
We have some major. Yes, John.
We have not only the history of Darien, we have a history of pre-Darien. And we also have a complete history from the beginning of the baseball program in Darien, also creating the entire Darien Youth Club history from 71 or to now. So you can come and see all the kids.
1955.
You have the whole history of the city of Darien too. The beginnings of the city of Darien, all the elected officials, all that.
2 or 3, yes.
But what I wanted, we have some major stakeholders here. The Historical Society building happens to be on property owned by the school district, District 61. So they are a major stakeholder here. We've examined, when we met earlier, we examined ways to fund the museum. And there's something out there in the state legislature called the museum tax. That would be a revenue stream that would be specific for the Historical Society. Unfortunately, it has some caveats to it and how it is applied. And I've got copies, and I'm going to give copies to the major stakeholders around here, so you can take them back to your attorneys on your boards and discuss these with them. In reading the law, it starts out with a section that talks about cities and park districts. But then the rest of it, when it talks about creating this tax, it only identifies the park district, a park district. So it brings up the question of, would it be possible for the Historical Society to come under the umbrella of one of our taxing bodies here, and we would levy a tax? Obviously, this one is dedicated, it seems to be dedicated to a park district. So that is a question I'd like to throw out to the Park District to initiate and talk about with their boards. And this doesn't mean it has to be just that body. The school obviously is a stakeholder, as I said, because the property is on the building is on their property. But if any one of us taxing bodies chose to take over the Historical Society and make it part of our institutions, I'm sure the District 61 would be more than willing to do an intergovernmental agreement for us to take over that. And that's something you'd have to discuss with your board.
I know for a fact that that's happened a number of different times over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, so we know that this District 61 is willing to do it. I've been talking to, our staff about this whole issue of finding a significant revenue stream specifically for the Historical Society, and these are the ideas I've been, running through my mind. Yes, the school district could take it under their umbrella, which it is really now, and they could collect taxes specifically for the Historical Society, but because they have a property tax cap, they would be taking away from their own revenues. That's the same story with the Park District. I believe you're under tax cap also. But there was some language in here that intrigued me, and that's why I want your attorney to take a look at it and see if there's a possibility that the revenue stream that this museum tax could create would be separate from your levy. And then the question, yeah. And then the last idea I had was, and that's why I asked the alderman to be here, what do you think about the Historical Society becoming a division of the city of Darien? We have no property tax cap, so we would be able to. But then again, we're talking about raising taxes to our residents. So these are some of the ideas I've been throwing out. I think a Historical Society would be a perfect location to be under the umbrella of a school. Of a high school or any school district. I think it naturally fits. I think it naturally fits for a library, for the Historical Society to be part of a library. So I'm throwing out these ideas for you all to take back to your boards. And I don't know if the township would be in a position to start considering, taking some of their revenue stream to dedicate it to the Historical Society. But yes.
We found an example online of an intergovernmental agreement that sort of mirrors the situation we're in. It's Oswego, and their school or museum is called the Little White Schoolhouse Museum.
How about that?
And yeah, and to refresh my memory here, this building was, I believe it was on, the school district was going to sell the building because it was in disrepair. It was on school district property. And this is back in the late 70s, early 80s, what have you. So some of the residents formed a committee, Historical Society committee, along with the Park District, And they were able to come up with an agreement whereby the school agreed to retain ownership of the building, provided the status as a community eyesore was remedied, and the park district agreed to maintain the grounds renamed Heritage Park, and also to assist by paying utilities and assisting with other costs. So my understanding of this, I haven't gotten the particulars, is that there was an agreement between the school district and the park district, so that I think they are able to tax under that park district land caveat of the museum tax. So that is one example where they have worked out something.
The information I have is similar, and I was challenging that there's one sentence in this this law that makes me think that even though there's these two entities are capped by the property tax cap, that there may be some wiggle room that it would not affect the revenues they collect for their purposes, and yet have a revenue stream that would be dedicated strictly to the Historical Society. So it's just ideas I've had, and I would like us all to explore it. I don't know, Claudia, I mean, I don't know if you guys are bursting with money over there, if you could adopt a historical society, but
Minor tax increase.
yeah, but when you look at the critical needs, yes, you look at the up-to-date computer technology, the new roof, the chimney. There might be some extraordinary expenses up front, but from that point on, you know, I would imagine that the expenditures would kind of level out. So it's food for thought with everyone here. Thoughts, ideas?
Well, along the lines of the immediate needs for the items that are listed, the maintenance items, I have a suggestion. My older son, Rich Jablonski, graduated from District 61 in '86. He works for a not-for-profit organization called Chicago Cares, and they match up entities or organizations that need help with something with a group of volunteers or a company or somebody to volunteer people's time and money. And maybe it would be worthwhile talking to somebody at Chicago Cares to see if they would be willing to manage a project to take care of all the immediate maintenance issues. And maybe everybody in Darien could volunteer. I mean, literally not everybody, but all of our organizations, if, you know, if it could be a, you know, Darien Helping Darien Day. You know, it might be something that could take care of some of the immediate needs. So.
We do have a group called Darien Helping Darien, so we could mobilize that group for sure. But I guess the question to the board, the Historical Society board, is, do you want to stay independent of other organizations? I mean, that's a basic question that we throw out to you. Do you want to stay independent and be on your own?
That's an issue that we were going to have to discuss eventually as part of this investigation effort that we're doing here. Because in coming under the auspices of one of these taxing bodies, we are going to have to give up a degree of independence. So we have got to discuss among ourselves what that means.
Well, I
And we
envision,
haven't
yeah, I
really done
envision
that.
you as an independent board.
That's- and yet-
Even.
Flag Creek operates. Okay, the park district maintains the building and does all the utilities and everything, but it does not impact what they as a historical society do. Their accounts are so totally separate. That's just Flag Creek, and that's the only one I really know any details about. I don't know how Downers operates or how.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the investigation you need to
Yeah,
do
we've
on
done
your
that.
side.
We have done some of that. I can quickly go through.
Yeah.
Downers Grove Museum is part of the Downers Grove Park District. Westmont, the Gregg Museum is part of the Westmont Park District. Naperville, they have a historic board as part of their city, and I think they even appoint the curator of the museum there.
And they're under the auspices of the city in that
The
case.
city, exactly.
Okay.
What Oswego did was, again, that agreement, I don't know if it's in writing, if it was a handshake deal, but they actually have a commission that is part of the village. It's listed, you know, with responsibilities in the village code. Hinsdale had a kind of strange situation, sort of similar, where the school district granted the Historical Society, well, the village of Hinsdale granted the Historical Society a charter as nonprofit status. They were looking for a building to house materials. The school district 181 made a home available. The home was again in disrepair. The village made a 1/4 acre park site available under a long-term lease to the society, and then the Historical Society had to find the funding to relocate the building and rehab it. But again, that was part of the village. So those are a couple things that we've researched. There are other local museums that are in the state that we're in, where they're completely funded by just memberships and such.
Miriam?
I think too, it sounds like you have some real immediate needs. And this might take, any governmental agency takes a while to change or to investigate. I think it would be interesting though to know how much, your immediate needs are to keep the building, get the building safe and, what did you say? Not livable, but, structurally, at least so that, you don't have mice and leaks. So I think, maybe somebody could volunteer their services, or maybe some builder or something could give you some idea of how much this would be, just to get the building so that you kind of know what you're talking about here.
Well, I could definitely volunteer our staff. I mean, Dan.
Be great.
Dan Gombick is a wonderful resource. He probably can't give you hard and fast numbers, but he certainly can give you ballpark ideas. Now, Rich is, what is the name of the group? Chicago Cares? This group might be a better resource since they're out in the market doing this kind of work all the time to tap into to see if they can't give you some hard and fast numbers right away.
Right, just because then you could always draw on other the Rotary, the Lions, the Women's Club, and go out to other groups in Darien and see what
Make a
see
pitch.
what we're talking about.
Make a pitch.
Yeah, I have no idea, as to what kind of fundraiser you might need.
Joe's got.
A few years ago, Downers Grove Historical Society bought a house on Randall Road in Downers Grove. It was a Blodgett house. Forgive me if I'm not remembering, it was like 1817 Blodgett or something along those lines. And one of the local builders in town helped facilitate actually physically moving that property to its current spot. I would get a hold of somebody with that organization to find out how they generated the money and the resources. Because, I got to figure out, it's got to be harder to move a house than it is to fix up the one you got. I'm thinking.
Do they have a museum?
Well, and in fact, when I was at the tree lighting on Sunday, I asked Alice, I said, what do you think about moving the whole house? You have Myers Barn out on the property that was, was given to the Park District. But what a great location that would be for your whole, that would be a whole area there. But Alice shot me down. She thought it was a bad idea. So, but I threw it out just to see what you'd say.
Myers Barn is still in use by the Park District for storage purposes. They use it on a day-in, day-out basis. We
Okay.
really can't use the facility.
Okay, well, we'll have to see if there's room for discussion on that. Joe?
When the Safety Village was built, wasn't that done with a lot of volunteer contributions?
Oh, absolutely.
Contractors
Yep.
donated.
The Army Corps of Engineers was involved in that, yes.
And you look at that facility, that's a beautiful facility, and yet I remember all these people volunteering and for no money.
I think the Hagans, I think they did all of the legwork on that one to get all the volunteers.
I know how the Lions Club operates, and I know that if there was a dedicated year to helping the Darien Historical Society, and they set a goal that they needed to raise $10,000 or $12,000, you would have more cooperation from your local organization. I know the Lions Club would participate, the Women's Club would participate, the Rotary would participate. What they have to do is do just what I tell the pastor at Our Lady of Peace. You gotta go to the microphone and you gotta say, we need to repair the parking lot, we need $400,000, and we need to do it. And then people know what you're doing.
We've done that
But
before.
they have to do the same thing. We need roofs, we need this, we need this, we need $12,000 to do it. And we need the help of the organizations within the city of Darien to we would give a lot more if there was a goal set for all of us to achieve.
And we have started that with certain things. We do have, right now, a furnace fund for a new furnace and air conditioning. I don't remember exactly. $1,300 we have in it right now. So we have had people donate to our certain funds, but there again, we're approaching our membership, you know.
I think it's important also for you to understand what the backlog of things that need to be done that we've half done enough to get by. We have to get a new furnace, we need a new roof, we have a mice infestation problem. Wood classroom floors require work, and we redid those floors to be very current and very good about 5-6 years ago. There's some painting that needs to be done. There's some air conditioning issues that need to be done. Our chimney is in need of tuck pointing, and I can go on and on. You won't have time for your rest of your
Well,
meeting.
this is in the,
all
this is
there,
in the letter
yeah.
that we all received, so we know your critical needs, your immediate needs right now. May I suggest that we have 2 city council meetings a month, and we could put you on the agenda every month to come up, one of you to come up to the microphone and tell the people, tell everybody about your needs.
How about a feature article in the Neighbors magazine?
Yep.
That goes to everybody.
I think what is
And
happening this
outlay.
evening is really great in terms of making us aware that there are resources that we can tap into. And I think what you're also seeing is that up until now, none of that has been forthcoming because everybody just assumed that we're fine and we're going along and everything is just peachy keen, hunky-dory, and it's not. And so, I mean, we have, you know, major maintenance issues, and I love the suggestions that have been made in terms of getting those addressed. But I don't want us to also lose sight of the fact that we need an ongoing source of revenue to continue the work of a historical society. And so we really have, you know, 2 things that we're focused on. One is maintenance, and one is also being able to continue to be an archive and an artifact
Well,
collection.
I think I started the ball rolling on trying to find you a dedicated revenue source. It's up to us now to go back to our boards to see what we can do. But what the suggestions that have been brought forward could start you in the process of getting your immediate needs done. And I think Rich's, that's exciting to me. And the organization Joe Kenny mentioned, those 2 concepts right there might get you going on those immediate needs of your building.
Great.
I'll send Dan Gombeck over to have you start taking an assessment of maybe costs on some of these projects. But Joe Marquez.
Question for Ray. The Chicago Cares, they just like general contractors, Ray?
No.
Do they do the work or they organize?
They organize,
Getting the volunteers?
there'd be like the project manager,
Okay.
and they would, I mean, if you just go on the Chicago Cares website, you can see all the things that they do. I mean, they do a lot of work with Chicago Public School System, but they also do work in all of the suburbs. And usually what happens is some organization needs something, like, Kennedy High School needs their library shelves painted or something. And they would find an organization or a company, usually in the area, that would want to help and get the volunteers to do that. Or, companies, corporations go to Chicago Cares, like, Astellas or some other major organizations, and go, we'd like to have a volunteer Saturday. I can get you 10,000 people. You let me know where you want them and what you want them to do. I mean, they've taken over the Lake County Fairgrounds on a Saturday for a day of building bookshelves for libraries and schools, they have a number of big events throughout the year, but they're doing projects all the time, so.
The reason I ask that is because, and I think Marion said it, they have immediate needs in
Yeah.
terms of their facility.
Right.
Whether or not one of these governmental bodies takes them on and helps provide a revenue source for maintenance
Right.
of their buildings and their programs, they need help just in terms of improving that building and making it safe.
Right.
That's not gonna happen right away.
Right. So, you know, if somebody were to contact Chicago Cares and just talk to them about it, what they would do is if it's a project that they would like to take on, they would assign a project manager. They would come out and meet with the Darien Historical Society, take a look at the project, write the whole project up, come up with the list of materials that they would need or the amount of time that they think, and then they would say, you know, if we could get 25 volunteers on a Saturday for 8 hours, and if we can get 2 carpenters and 2 painters and all this, we could knock it out in a day or 2. You know, I'm not saying it's that easy, but that's kind of what they do. And then they try and...
Where do those volunteers come from? The city here?
It can be...
Historical Society would be the one that would be the agent to get the volunteers?
It
Or
could,
they get the volunteers.
it could be, or there might be a corporation or an organization nearby that wants to do a project on a Saturday, and they could match them up. Or, you know, our group here could organize a group of volunteers and just kind of coordinate the project in the day and everything that needs to be done. Right. Right.
Yeah, well, you just need to get the information to the head of each of those groups, and you got your volunteers. Joe, Kenny?
What, Canty Abate being formerly on our Citizen of the Year committee, you might have some insight on this. Your audience for this is probably all the people that are going to come to the Citizen of the Year day. And I'm just wondering, is there some kind of fundraising arm that you can attach to it where the proceeds come here, whether it be something as simple as just adding $10, you know, voluntarily. If the ticket, I don't know how much it is, if the ticket was $50, would you mind putting another $20 in to just, you know, and the proceeds go to the Historical Society and give them an opportunity, maybe put a table out and do a silent auction. Just a thought before I get shot.
Well, we did that. What was the name of? You know, his name slips my mind, but he was the head of the Our Lady of Peace Food Pantry, and part of. Right, Paul Broccoli. What did we do when he was assistant? We all brought food to the dinner dance to be donated to the. So it's doable. It's very doable. Ted, yeah.
You can get some quick cash to make some of those. Because if you got $1,300 in your furnace fund, if you come out with something to make $3,000 that night on there, you just paid for your furnace.
Right.
You know what? Didn't we as a group? Didn't we make a list at the beginning of vendors that we could all tap into? You know, I have to go back to that list because we might have plumbers and electricians and people of that nature on that list. Okay, all right, just thinking out loud. Ted?
Just another suggestion, going back to Facebook and Twitter. We have Our Lady of Peace, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, we have the Boy Scouts. 8th grade confirmation, they have public service. What about the shot of giving some of the kids a chance to come on over and working on the Facebook or the Twitter page, taking pictures of items that are in the Historical Society upload, you know, using that resource. Because it'd be a great way for them to get involved and get them more excited. Because again, the ultimate goal is, as everybody gets older, we need that younger generation to be more involved into it. So this is an idea.
You know, I think we need to start on communication immediately. You can use our city council meetings for your communication twice a month. You can use our direct connect, which goes out to,
She does.
do you? Yeah, I think you do. I think most of the organizations get any information, pertinent stuff to us. Okay, okay. All right, if it's all right with everyone, it's 8:05. We've put a lot into this meeting, and I'd like to, we did set a date of February 4th, 2014 as our next meeting. So I'll leave it to all of our taxing bodies to go back to our boards and see if there's anything that we feel we can do independently to work with the Historical Society or help this Historical Society now. I don't know if you want to do fundraisers, or whatever you guys can come up with and think of, would be appreciated. And then we'll tackle this whole issue. I'm going to bring this up to my board about, and I know Ray's going to bring up this board to his board, and about taking you in as a. But you know what? Did you answer my question? Did you want to stay separate from one of us? That's right. That's right. You were talking. You were going to talk about that. Yeah, you were talking about that. Okay, so you've got some time to talk about what you need to do, and we'll talk about what we think we need to do here. So, is there anything else that anybody?
As long as we've got the members of the Historical Society here, I'd like to ask you a question. We normally, during our meeting, will talk about initiatives between different organizations here, things we do to share information, help each other out. Has anybody from CAS 63 or superintendent contacted you about the mural that we're doing as part of our renovation?
No.
Okay, because we want to do, our superintendent wants to do a mural that's kind of a timeline of our school district. As part of our renovation, and he's looking for all sorts of photos. I'll make sure he gets a hold of you.
Because the one mural you did that the art teacher did, okay, nobody asked us either about that, and we could have contributed a great deal.
Well, this is going to be a big project. I'll definitely make sure that he gets a hold of you. Thank you.
I did give the principal copies of pictures that we found in the process of doing the book. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. Does Rich have a phone number to get in touch with somebody?
I'll get it after the meeting.
Okay, all righty.
And real quickly, the Women's Club has asked the Historical Society, and they came out last year, and they spoke to the Women's Club, and just so if anybody is looking for a great speaker, they do have a presentation that they'll come to your group and speak, and the pictures are wonderful in the book. If you haven't seen it,
Thank you, Marion.
it's wonderful. It is.
Yes, I mean,
The presentation, everybody was amazed and didn't realize that we have a real past.
Well, I had the number wrong. Jim Tukalski gave me the wrong number when I was speaking at the Historical Society, but the city of Darien will be 44 years old on December 13th this year. And
We all looked at you when you said
I know. I turned to Jim, I said, how old are we? He said, he's 35. I said, and then after I got off, I said, what the heck was I thinking?
Joe hesitated to tell you that.
Well,
I'm not that good at math. I'm 44. I know what the year was.
but at any rate, that's what I said, that tree lighting, we don't just start 44 years ago. We start long before that, well over 100 years. Yes, well over 100 years. So thank you for all that you do, and we'll see you back here on February 4th.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Klein and Jablonski, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
What's that? Oh, you haven't got the balls.
What do you think? Do you think the taxpayers would be all over us if we raise taxes for this?